The Mission Impossible movies are one of my top favorite film franchises, due largely to the commitment, dedication, and intention that Tom Cruise delivers and entertains the audience with for over 20 years. And he's been in the film industry for over 40 years. I do not care about Cruise's personal life. I just really enjoy him as a performer. Ethan Hunt's story will be discovered in the summer of 2024 with Dead Reckoning Part 2. Ranking the first 6 Mission Impossible movies was originally also planned as a Spotify audio-only podcast, but my podcasts are now concluded / finished, and went on as far as they could, all the way they could go. You can now catch the series finale last episode, With a Heavy Heart, on May 3rd, 2023. May 3rd, 23. 3 also happens to be my favorite number. Now that we know Mission Impossible 7, or Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, is coming soon to a theater near you on Wednesday, July 12th, 2023, let's take a look back at the first 6 movies. Ranking the first 6 Mission Impossible movies. Light the fuse. Coming in at last place for me, and is also probably is for a whole lot of other Mission fans, a lot of other fans as well, is coming in here in last final place, all the way at the bottom, also for some fans as well, is Mission Impossible 2 from 2000. I remember going to see this with my dad way back in the summer of 2002. Mission Impossible 2. Parts of the movie are a bit slow. Ethan Hunt doesn't have the kind of team element that he has in most of the other movies of the series, though Vic Rames is with him in all the movies. There is no chemistry between him and Thandie Newton. Dougray Scott as the main villain was offered the part of Wolverine in the original X-Men movies, but MI2 went over schedule, and therefore he never became Wolverine. Of course, we do know who does become Wolverine. Alright, I'm all done the first page of notes. Mission Impossible 2 is the only movie in the franchise where Ethan Hunt is actually a good, stable Ethan Hunt is actually... Mission Impossible 2 is the only movie in the franchise where Ethan Hunt is actually on good, stable terms with the IMF. In every other movie, he's running from or having to deal with the IMF in a negative type way. In every other movie, he's running away from the IMF. It is only in Mission 2, out of all the other movies, that he's actually on stable, solid terms with the IMF. John Woo is the only director not asked to come back to direct a further installment in the series. I do like the music from Hans Zimmer in this movie. MI2's music by Hans Zimmer is really, really neat. I really like the music from Hans Zimmer. And I like the final martial arts battle at the end of the movie. Mission Impossible 2 also has some quotes I like that you can hear me perform in my Spotify podcasts, which include Dougray Scott talking about the whole monkey branching, which in real life is a thing, you know, female monkey branching. And there's a few other lines as well in the movie that were memorable as well. Now, coming in for me in 5th place, and this might be too low for some people. I know my friend and co-host Avi ranks it pretty high up, but coming in for me at 5th place is Mission Impossible 4: Ghost Protocol. I remember seeing this movie with my dad when I asked him to take me in December 2011 to see this in our only real legit IMAX in the area. The only real IMAX? At the Franklin Institute. The Franklin Institute in downtown Philly. This is, I believe, the last Mission Impossible movie that he and I saw together as father and son. Unfortunately, we did not get to see Mission 5, 6, or the next one coming up, unfortunately, as well. We stopped at 2, 3, and 4, but not 2, 3, and 4 we saw together. 2, 3, and 4 together, but not 5, 6, and 7. I would take myself to 5 and 6. Before the movie started, because this was the IMAX I first originally saw it in, before the movie started, they had showed us the first 5 or 6 minutes of the opening to The Dark Knight Rises. Rise. Tom Cruise gliding on the outside of that building was amazing on the IMAX screen. Outside of the building set piece, anything that happened before or after in the movie, before or after the outside building, honestly is not that memorable to me. But again, I just recently did a Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol movie discussion with Avi, and he liked the movie a lot more than I did. So it's good to have different opinions, different thoughts of what movies you like a lot or don't like, depending on to each individual. Anything that happened before or after the movie was honestly not that memorable for me. The guy that plays Carmine Falcone in Batman Begins has a brief scene with Ethan and Jeremy Renner as, I guess, the main boss guy, but he's only in that brief little scene. Paula Patton is easy on the eyes. Simon Pegg has more to do than his introduction in Part 3. He has even more to do in Part 5 and Part 6. Paula Patton fights Leia Seydoux in the movie, who would end up becoming the main love interest of James Bond in 2015's Spectre, Bond 24, and 2021's No Time to Die, Bond 25, with Daniel Craig. But I didn't really care for Spectre or No Time to Die, so let's hope Bond 26 has a fresh, clean, and more well-done continuation to whatever the whole Daniel Craig stuff was about. Bond producers and casting agent seem to have a common theme of hiring French actresses who go nude in their earlier movies. Vic Rames is only seen briefly at the very end of the movie. I almost thought, the first time I saw it, I almost thought he wasn't even going to be in the movie, but Vic Rames is the only briefly seen at the end of the movie, so only Vic Rames and Tom Cruise are in all the Mission Impossible movies together. Everybody else are in, well, less than all together. There's also a brief cameo scene for Ethan Hunt's wife from the third movie at the end of 4 Ghost Protocol. Alright. Yeah, I already paged. I said everything I wanted to say in page 2. All right. And now, bottom of page 3. Coming in at 4th place. Coming in at 4th place for me, and some people may have this much higher up, is the original, first, 1996, Mission Impossible. The only one to be in the 90s. I like seeing Ethan Hunt use a slow dial-up 1996 version of the internet on the computer, similar to Natalia using a very slow mid-90s computer-like internet stuff for Natalia's in 1995's GoldenEye. Outside of the internet 90s computer thing, this is just, outside of that, it's just not one of the movies that I have much interest in watching multiple times or even more than just twice. And that is the end of page 3 of notes. With Henry, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm just going to spell it for you so you know what I'm talking about. C-Z-E-R-N-Y. C-Z-E-R-N-Y. With Henry C-Z-E-R-N-Y as Kittredge coming back in some form in Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning Part 1. It looks like the story is connected back to Mission Impossible 1 in some way. Maybe in a lot of ways. We'll find out soon enough. Coming in now, in third spot. Coming in the third spot for me is Mission Impossible 3 from 2006. I remember going to see I remember seeing Ethan Hunt. Oh, Ethan Hunt is more fleshed out as a character than he was in the first 2 movies. Coming in the third spot for me is Mission Impossible 3 from 2006. I remember seeing Ethan Hunt is more fleshed out as a character than he was in the first 2 movies. Yeah, I saw this with my dad. This is the ones I saw with my dad were 2, 3, and 4. Mission Impossible 3 has a memorable main baddie in Philip Seymour Hoffman. May he rest in peace. We see how they make the masks in the 3rd movie. Ethan Hunt has a fiancée / soon-to-be wife. And the opening of the movie really engages the audience. Alright, now, that was the 3rd spot. Now, here's where I'm a bit cheating for the 2nd and 1st spot. The 2nd and 1st spot is a bit cheating because depending on the day, week, and month, it could only be one or the other, and I can't settle on one higher than the other. I mean, if I really had to settle, I'd have to say 6 for sure in the number 1 spot for most days and weeks and months. But for 1 and 2, 2 and 1 are gonna they're gonna bounce back, and let me explain it like this. Parts 5, 6, 7, and 8. Parts 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all directed by the same director. Depending on the day or the week or the month, sometimes I have Part 5, Rogue Nation, as my number 1 pick. Well, while even more other times I have Part 6, Fallout, as my number 1 choice. In mostly any other film franchise series, a Part 5 or a Part 6 would be going downwards or real low quality, but Tom Cruise and the director somehow made unique, entertaining, exciting, and fun movies for the audience to get lost in with this 5th and 6th chapter. I find both Rogue Nation and Fallout to be rewatchable. It is very rare for a 5th movie or a 6th movie in a series to be as great, incredible, huge, and fantastic that it is. Rebecca Ferguson is introduced in Part 5, Rogue Nation, and will have more to do in Part 6 and Part 7. The beginning of Rogue Nation has Tom Cruise literally on the side of a fast-moving airplane. I don't know how that was done, but that was really impressive from however he did that. Rogue Nation has interesting set pieces inside of an opera and having to go inside water for an extended for an extended bit of time to retrieve something. Solomon Lane is alright in Part 5 Rogue Nation. Solomon Lane is alright in Part 5 Rogue Nation, but is even more dangerous and lethal in Part 6 Fallout. You'll know what I mean when you see him between how he's portrayed in both movies. The trailer for Part 6 Fallout ruins that Henry Cavill is one of the bad guys. But I think I watched something recently online, read or watched something recently online that explained why Tom Cruise wanted Henry Cavill to be portrayed as the bad guy in the trailer from the start. Which, I guess trailers have been ruining things for people for over 30 years. The first 15 to 20 minutes of Part 6 Fallout is interesting for the audience. For sure. 30 minutes into Fallout, there's also a bathroom fight scene, which reminds me of a bathroom fight scene in True Lies, 1994. Character Julia, Michelle Monaghan as the fiancée wife of Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible 3. Julia / Michelle Monaghan for Mission Impossible 3 2006 is brought back as Ethan's ex-wife, which I thought made Part 6 storyline more engaging and tied it back to Part 3. Not all, but a lot of these movies tie back to each other in some way. Not completely, but little parts of some of the movies. Alright, and that is it for page 5 of notes. And the last is page 6. To start to wrap this up, sometimes Part 5 Rogue Nation gets my #1 ranking spot, but even more so other days, Part 6 Fallout is my #1 pick. They're so close, so neck and neck. 6 ultimately is my highest #1, but there are some days, weeks, and months where Part 5 makes the #1 spot. It's really hard to decide between those two. And it's really, really something else to know that Part 5 and 6 are as so watchable as they are in something for franchises like this. But they are very close, very neck to neck, in worthwhile quality, in my opinion. And I recommend Rogue Nation and Fallout to anyone who hasn't seen them yet. I cannot wait to see Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1 in July, at least twice in movie theaters, in my birthday month of July. Cancer. The sign, not the disease. Mission Impossible 7 is my most #1 anticipated movie of 2023. Common Era, CE, Common Era. Don't get me started on the other datings of things. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to go catch Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1 at your local movie theater. Support your local movie theaters throughout the decade of the 2030s with a bunch of strangers in a communal experience like no other. Because why? Because streaming online at home is just not the same thing at all. And Tom Cruise works very hard to entertain all of us, so let's go back to the movie theaters. Your local movie theater, oh yes. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Everybody dance and have a good time. Everybody dance and have a good time. This is Millennial Man Motions Entertainment, LLC. Signing out. Signing out. Dun 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 dun